the economic challenge, addressing the economic challenges. But it is special election night, and I pay credit to anybody who puts themselves forward for election, because it takes quite a lot of bravery to put yourself up, especially in a difficult seat to win. But nevertheless, it's an important part in democracy, and we see that at our council results and level. And of course, we'll have our opportunity again with the Police and Crime Commissioner elections, but also the big vote on the 23rd of June, the EU referendum, and that's when, to be honest, party politics is irrelevant, and we need to people on both sides will be working together in order to maximise people to come out and have their say on the future of the EU.
And for you to be re-elected, it's also because the first time you were a bit of an unknown quantity, but it is also sort of an affirmation to you, isn't it, that you are doing the right thing, maybe?
Indeed. Well, it's kind of how it feels. I have to admit, it was nice to get over half the vote. It's something most MPs try, and that's their kind of ambition. Almost the size of the majority doesn't matter. It's and I had not anticipated that at all, because we've been through some difficult issues. Other factors were at play, and I was particularly thrilled, and I'd like to think that's due to some of the campaigns that I did, the A14 and working with others, but nevertheless, hopefully make a good impression, and dare I say it, the pressure's on for next time. But that's it's the right thing to hold MPs' feet to the fire, and I try and work hard. Juggling that with ministerial duties means you don't have quite as much time necessarily to dedicate, but it means that the time that you do, you have to be really focused and in trying to deliver, and that's why working alongside other ministers, it's great to be working with Ben, who's working so hard for Ipswich as well as his health role, and although mine isn't a very public facing role, nevertheless I know that my time is focused particularly on economic issues about the Sizewell Sea, that's as well as my ongoing work about ambulances. So there's quite a lot of stuff that's still going on, just not necessarily always being able to get to quite as many meetings in the constituency as I would like.
We'll talk about that, because it must be a real juggle, and with all the other MPs I've said the same. It's really hard to balance that. This is a newish feature on the programme. No biscuits. We have keys with fobs attached, and they have questions, questions. The same questions get thrown at everybody.
When was your first kiss or date? Gosh. Now, I seem to remember a kiss happening at primary school, which I hope my parents aren't. My mum isn't listening to this. I was actually at this primary school where my dad was head teacher, but I'm trying to remember if it was him or I guess the first proper kiss was with a guy called John, and that was in North Wales.
And you're probably safe in North Wales if we're very lucky. You can tell me more if you like.
No, I think that's enough.
Each boys, and I get around. It's 3:25. So MP Therese Coffey, Dr. Therese Coffey, is my guest on the sofa. And should we talk a bit about that? Actually, it's a good way in, because you were in business. You were was it a PhD in chemistry? Have I got that right?
That's right. Yes.
Before you ever decided to become an MP. So what spurred that wanting to be an MP?
Well, I had been interested in politics for some time. I grew up in Liverpool, and quite a politically charged time in the 80s, and Derek Hatton is a name that still reverberates from those days. And that was at the time both my parents were teachers, and the famous redundancy notice were issued, including my parents, and I just felt that was a very poor way to run council. So I kind of looked up and saw that other parts of the country seemed to be getting on all right without people like Derek Hatton. And that's what inspired me. So it was almost like an against something rather than for that. And I think it's fair to say throughout my kind of life, I've not party political. Probably one of my proudest moments was organising a rent strike at university. Now I still made the students all pay their rent, but to a third party rather than that, and just a way to try and get better treatment from the university at the time. So I never thought I'd be good enough to be an MP. When I was at university, I was involved a bit, but enjoyed campaigning because I enjoyed doing things for people, trying to make things better. And politics is certainly a way to achieve that. And it wasn't until kind of had a bad experience with somebody who was running, and I just thought, well, if you can do it, I can at least try. And there is something to be said for a lot of it is about tenacity. So chipping away and trying to get things right and get things done. It doesn't mean that you'll always succeed or get your own way, But I do believe that I'm quite passionate about representing people. I'm passionate about a good way to run the country. A lot of that involves taking power away from the centre and actually giving power back to people. So in terms of that philosophy side, it's there about pushing that. So dare I say it, it's good. It's good fun. You have to put your tin hat on at times, and there are difficult decisions you have to make. Sometimes they're not always not easy to do. There are sometimes more popular ways to do things, but overall, I think it's about working with others and in order to, as I say, try and shape a better life for the country, for people, for businesses. And I think one of the things that people find interesting when they first arrive at Parliament is that actually Parliament can be very tribal, because it is a government and an opposition. That's the system. But actually, MPs of all parties work together on issues. And the reason you see the tribalism more is because the chamber, which is the main source of that, is normally about debating legislation, and normally you're in a situation where the opposition is saying,